for me, it was the tachycardia did not impact me as much as the arrhythmia. Tachycardia would be really fast, arrhythmia when it was irregular. And I see that so much in organizations. Everybody kind of go beating to their own rhythm. The
Right.
process,
The organizational arrhythmia is the problem, not the tachycardia
right.
in the organization.
Even when my heart was slow, if it was arrhythmic, I would collapse. So I would say that pause, being gracious in that, is that reset so that everybody can get in the same rhythm again. And that allows organizations.
Welcome to Daily Power Boost. I'm Shawn Michael. This isn't a podcast about pushing harder or fixing yourself. It's a space to see clearly how your experience is actually being created. Each episode offers a simple shift in understanding, not a tactic, not a hustle, a clearer view of thought, identity, and the patterns you've been living inside. Because when misunderstanding drops, relief rises, energy returns. You move forward with calm, sovereign clarity. This is your Daily Power Boost. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Daily Power Boost. Today on Beyond the Boost, my guest doesn't just teach productivity, she actually teaches permission. Permission to feel, permission to choose differently, permission to build success that doesn't quietly cost you your nervous system. Today I'm joined by Hanna Bauer, founder of HEARTnomics, and her work is at the intersection of emotional literacy, leadership, and what actually happens inside people when the old ways of striving stop working. It's a conversation about the hidden economics of the heart, what we pay when we ignore it, and what becomes possible when we stop treating emotions like a liability. Hannah, I'm really glad you're here and I'm excited for our conversation.
Oh, thank you so much for having me. Really appreciate it. And I'm excited to have this conversation with you.
All right. So, to kick us off, when people first hear Heartnomics,
Hmm.
what problem were you actually trying to solve when you created this work and this brand?
Survival. I think initially it was just like trying to survive. And I went deep into even my own personal growing up. It was this survival. So it just, I started seeing the parallel so much between being a leader, a business owner, entrepreneur, even mom, just the daily life and really the desire of wanting to be something so much more, and yet the balancing act that feels like it's just trying to survive, that breath, that break, that permission to pause and really be courageous in maybe in different than what I was hearing the messages from even people that loved me of what I was to do, how I was to pursue it. So that's where Heartnomics came in. Is the economy of the heart, knowing that there is a system, and it not only is it a very systematic, process oriented, but also it has heart, it has feelings, it has emotions. It embodies our entire humanity.
Beautiful. What was it specifically you began to notice in high capacity people that perhaps others seem to be missing?
Okay, so there's a couple of things. I would say even like when the whole concept of hardnomics, like the birth of hardnomics, for example, that just came to me. It was when I was, I remember I have been contacted by the hospital, the children's hospital, 20 years after a innovative surgery, my heart surgery, and I was actually listening to the doctor that performed the surgery along with the other surgeons doing part of the documentary. And of course, it's a person I highly admired because I mean, it was alive, right? That was crucial what he had done. So he was, I would say, one of the first leaders that I really got to not only see in times of uncertainty, not having the results that he wanted, but also in his persistence and hope of not only hoping for me, But really, what eventually led to this innovative surgery at the time of the filming of the documentary had saved 3,000 other kids. So when I heard him say that, like, well, what was it that you were trying to do? He says, well, we're just trying to keep her alive long enough for technology to catch up. In a sense, I at that point, it's like when it hit me that it was really in a high performer like him, knowing that yes, there's processes and systems which they had to, right, it had to be very precise, it had to be very methodical. I mean, they were dealing with my life, me as a kid, but also the support system that came with that. It wasn't just that, it wasn't just science or technology or methodology or these things, which very much the technology that came with that, but the support that was right along. And for me, well, what was the support? Well, it was first of all love. It was the hope. It was the hope in light of like, hey, there's no cure, yet there was something even bigger inside of this entire team. I was observing, I was seeing that there were high hope leaders. There were leaders that also not they didn't disguise themselves from the reality, but they were looking at the reality and still seeing what could be some solutions that were around that. So, um, what did I see in high performers? I saw values based. I saw that high performing leaders are leaders that are also with they not only act but they have high values and they work through it to not only protect but also to innovate and come up with solutions for the future.
And I was trying to remember from our first conversation and from my notes because I was like, wait, Hannah has a story. Like way before she wrote the book or created the HEARTnomics, there's a story. And you've touched on it.
Yeah.
So can you fill us in on that story, that those early years? What happened?
So perfectly normal, fine. At 4 years old, I started suffering what seemed like, the syncope, so passing out at 4 years old suddenly. And it became a diagnosis. Actually, at the time, it was a terminal diagnosis for heart disease, where they didn't have really a cause, root. It wasn't anything physical. As far as what they could know, but it was episodes, a condition that would make my heart go super fast, like tachycardia is what it was called. For those of you that may not be familiar with that, it's like, if you're in a treadmill, if you're running, that when your heart starts going fast, that's what my heart would do, except it wouldn't, there was nothing that really made it go fast. It could be a sneeze or just bent down wrong or in the middle of the night it would happen. But not only did it go fast, but it also was arrhythmic. So the arrhythmia was meaning abnormal. So, if you're running, you may necessarily be out of breath because it's going fast. But if you notice when you stop running and if your heart starts going down, there's even a little bit like, as it's regulating, that part really like just even takes the breath out of you even more than sometimes the running. So for me, it was a combination of both of those. So I lived, from the age of 4 until 14 with that condition. I had experienced two heart attacks at the age of 10. And from the time that we arrived to the US, really spent the majority of my time in the CCU, the cardiac care unit. Like I said, it wasn't predictable. It wasn't like, hey, we know what was gonna, hey, stay away from this or stay away from that, don't do this, don't do that. There was nothing to stay away from or something specifically to do because it was very uncertain. And that's where a lot of my stories and like the resilience that was built, because I had to deal with the uncertainty. I had to deal with even the very things that, like the heartbeat that I needed, right, to live. Very
Right.
painful.
That most of us take for granted.
Yeah, very painful. And even in the regulating, it was just times where it was only because of the love of my grandmother, my mom that were around me that even would um, inspire me to take that breath in wanting to continue to live because it was painful. It was a very painful, debilitating disease. So, in the CCU, they tried a lot of different things. I mean, I had a heart cath before and it failed. I had an open heart surgery and it failed. And those were very hard times because then the last thing a pacemaker was not an option. And the only thing left was a heart transplant. And the heart transplant would, at the time, would have given me about 10 more years to live if everything went well. And at that point, I would have been 22, 23 max. So that was the only thing that was available at the time until, again, from learning from these experiences, right? Like, because every time they were through the heart cath, through the drugs, through the open heart, through everything that they were doing, they were looking at a way to, my problem was electric. So they were wanting to do something where it created a pathway. And 92 came, and that's when this opportunity for a surgery, it was high risk, had not been done before. And actually, it was a combination of three hospitals here, a collaboration. And they came together and did a heart ablation, which now is the main way that people get treated for heart disease, and not only for children, but in adults. It helps with regulating for those of you that may have had palpitations, it goes from that to the people that may have more severe or lethal rhythms dealing with tachycardia or arrhythmia.
Yeah, that's an amazing story.
Mm-hmm.
I remember when you first shared it with me, like I had to stop and take a breath. Like it took my breath, to think of the struggle that you had so early in your life.
Yeah.
But to see you today and see how that journey created the amazing person, touching lives and helping others through that journey of pain and struggle.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that because it definitely impacted my journey. And I would say, I think in a ways, I've been a slow learner because you would think, right? Like, hey, so I mean, I'm very sensitive with, so I was dealing with the heart and all these things. So as I went on, one of the things I didn't realize as a side effect, I guess, of all this is that I didn't really have those experiences, what you would call even like the human development side, right? Like the human. I had to, in a sense, I had to learn to be human, and I didn't quite understand all of that until I started encountering different challenges. And that's really where my curiosity in leadership was arise, because all of a sudden I see that leadership is a way of serving, is a way of being human. And that's really where my search took me. But that was the foundation. But I later on, as an entrepreneur, like I think I mentioned it to you, was I started experiencing the same problems I did as a kid going through heart disease, except this time I don't have heart disease, but I'm carrying payroll, I'm carrying leadership, I'm carrying communication, income, family life, all of these things that were completely exhausting me and having the same inner effects even of what I experienced being bound to a bed, but now it's just looking at serving and doing things. And that's where I knew I needed to have an answer. I had to go back to the beginning. And what got me through was what I call the beat method. And that's how the whole
One,
economics started. Mhm.
I'm guessing like the beat method kind of goes back to what you mentioned before, like just getting through that next heartbeat.
Yes, yes. Because even like I said, like even the heartbeat, right? Even like the thought sometimes as a kid of the next heartbeat, it was gonna hurt. It just the whole pump, like the action and pumping, and it's just weird to think because we don't think about heartbeat and we don't think about breathing. And as a child, having to very much be aware of every beat and every breath was exhausting. So
Right. And that puts you in a very like on the edge, right? You like you said, you know when that beat comes, it's gonna hurt,
hurts.
but you also know if it doesn't come,
I'm dead.
game over.
Yes, both scary, especially to a child and a teenager,
Yeah.
because I went through that through my teenage years. Um, and that what got me through. I mean, the initial part, which just goes again with B for beat, was believe. I had to believe. I had to believe that there was going to be better. I had to believe that next beat was going to take me, that next heartbeat was going to take me to a better place. It was a good thing. And things that I couldn't do because, again, as a child, I couldn't play and even go to school. I was not allowed to at times because of the liability of the heart attack. I had to believe that there was a better future, that still today there was something I could do. And that's where my little mini shifts came in. Was from the hospital bed. I had to check my belief and, in essence, give my, my realign the energy so that my body will get in alignment and align with getting better, align with healing,
Right.
align with
And
what was believed.
and strengthen that belief,
Yes.
right? Because that's the thing with belief. Those micro shifts, those micro actions reinforce.
Hmm.
Because if we just hold a belief and, it's like a small plant,
Yeah.
right? Often we have to feed it and nurture it and take care of it and give it light.
Absolutely. And that was the initial part. So, and B is believe, engage, act, transform. So once I believed and looking at engaging, I had to engage with that thought, engage even with that conversation, and really think about, well, who can I talk to? What can I see? Or what can I remember? What's a good memory? Like engage with whatever resource I had at the time. Sometimes the resource was my imagination. you know, Sometimes it was a book. Sometimes it was a movie. Sometimes it was a person, a volunteer. So that engagement came in a different way. And then it was the action. What was I going to do to keep on with feeding that belief, aligning, making that belief even bigger, a bigger presence in my life? And what was the transformation? Okay, if I believe this, if I engage with this, if I act with this, what is the transformation I'm seeking? What is the end goal? And then did that end goal feed with my belief? And it became this loop. And that's how my days were spent. That's how a lot of the things that I did. I mean, honestly, I look back at it many times like, oh, yeah, I mean, it did happen. I think sometimes we want to erase a lot of things that happen in life. And that was also one of the struggles I went through. Once I got through my heart disease, I got through this hard part. I didn't want to talk about it. It took me it wasn't until the hospital called and suddenly I feel like exposed that, like, wait, now, wait. I mean, it's a big deal, right? And I wanted to help, but it would have been at that point over 10 years. I didn't really want people to know. I wanted to hide it, especially hide my scar, the scar in my chest, because I'm like, man, that was a hard time. And that was a failure. It wasn't even a scar that I got and it made me better. It was a scar that I got and I felt worse. I mean, it was tough going through open heart surgery, and there was no positive result from that I could see as a kid.
Mm-hmm.
It's in the whole story, because there was that scar was very much a part of my progress. That scar, what they learned, really did give them the solution for that surgery. And I believe that was the same thing with my perspective. That was something I did have to change, to look at the scars, look at those tough moments and see, well, how can this help somebody else? The same way like the surgery helped me and it saved 3,000 other kids, I knew there was even more to that. And that's what I'm doing now.
Beautiful. And all right. So a lot of leaders, they're often recognized or rewarded for what we would call emotional control.
Hmm.
What would you say is the cost of that long term?
Your sanity. So we'll start with that. Um, in my search for, I mean, again, because I had to be so much into the emotional, I went all the way the other way. I became a process and systems person. Because again, this was the way that I became very rigid. I became a black belt in Six Sigma, continuous improvement. So I can do some amazing work with data, processes, the way, all the stuff. But then one of the things in there, which was my mistake, was relying in the rigidity of the process and the system to also not only regenerate and help the system and process, but yet forgetting the very person for whom that process and system worked for. And I wasn't going to do that unless I allowed myself to actually be able to look at the emotional impact of what change in processes and systems does to the person, does to the end user. What is the impact, which the initial impact is an emotional impact when you start looking at data and people feel like they're being not trusted. When you ignore emotional intelligence, when you ignore the emotion that comes in looking at areas that maybe because you're looking really to be better, not because you're looking at to see, where's the fault in this, even your best of intentions can be perceived the wrong way if you don't take the time to take at the emotion that's around that and look at the other systems, which definitely is there's an emotional system like the body. My heart was a cardiovascular system, but there's also a nervous system. So the cardiovascular very much needs the nervous system, just like the nervous system needs the cardiovascular. So the same way in an organization. And what do we call this nervous emotional system? Well, we call it culture. So a lot of that, like you cannot build a healthy culture if you yourself are not allowing to see not only the temperature, but be able to grow and be intentional in the emotional aspect, the cultural aspect of that organization.
Right. Because you're not working with a workforce of robots. You've got human beings
Yes.
that emotion is the root of being human.
Well, yes, and a lot of people, even with work, a lot of the identity is around work. I mean, some cultures, their entire identity of, after your name is usually, what do you do? Or, hey, I do it and I do X. A lot of times the identity comes from a role that is fulfilled. And there's a lot of emotion attached to that, which that is the other part. The other challenges as leaders is being grounded in the identity, dealing with purpose, and dealing with the emotion that fulfilling that purpose comes about.
Right. Well, and like you said, in so many cultures, it's, oh, hi, nice to meet you. What's your name? What do you do? And I've noticed, well, I'm an engineer or I'm a doctor. Right there, we know that we've adopted that as identity. It's not what I do, it's I said I am.
Right.
And I'm really big because I've seen it again and again. I just saw it again in January. I went for a big event where we raised several $1,000s in 2 days for You Are Enough, which is a relatively new organization. There was a video from Blake Mykowski. He was the founder of Tom's Shoes, and he pioneered that one for one giving, right?
Mm,
You buy a pair of shoes, they give a pair of shoes to somebody who needs them.
yeah.
Built this company, very, very successful, exited basically, by all external views, he got everything he want. He's got the nice house, the nice everything that people strive for, right? All the success. And he fell into a really big depression,
Mm,
thought about ending it,
mm,
and then he did the inner work and realized he had this old wound of not feeling enough.
mm.
And so that's why he launched this charity, because he wanted everybody to know you're enough.
Yes.
And the charity gives 100% of all money raised goes to mental health organizations to take care of mental health. But again, it was another story I saw where somebody had their whole identity was wrapped up in their career, their business, their startup, whatever. And when it was gone, they didn't know who they were, and they were lost.
Yeah. And unfortunately, that is a common story. And it does take leadership to not only move away from that, but also build a nurturing environment where our teammates are away from that, because we're doing a disservice if we also only look at our groups, our teams, because of what they do. And a lot of times, and I see that it's easy to do, even with like when you get remote work and where it's basically your communication is on tasks. It's all tasks. So you start seeing at the person more the position on the task oriented, and you're not looking at the entire person. So that's something that it is a true challenge for leaders to see beyond. And actually, that's one of the things when you talk about burnout. goes right along with that, with over 77% of the professionals saying burnout. Also, over half, over 60% look at themselves as like nobody sees me, like you don't see
Mm.
me. And well, we want to belong. That's one of the minimal basic things in Maslow's hierarchy of needs, right? I mean, we need that family. We want to belong
Belonging.
and how do I belong in this family? How do I belong on this tribe? How do I belong in this job? Well, by what I do. And if you start seeing that, you start really becoming not who your purpose or you're meant to be, but you start imagining even what's expected. And we start having unrealistic expectations because nobody told us that. Many times, like nobody told you to become that, but yet we start creating this idea in our heads, and it very much messes with you. It's either if the job is lost, retirement is another one, or even I see that a lot with founders. I work a lot with founders and nonprofits, and it's very difficult to even have that legacy, the legacy living, well, even in the private space, right? I mean, the private space when you have a new person, and in government where you have people have been there a long time, you will see their retirement. It's like, yes, they want to retire, but once it's retired, say, what do I do next? And that's why purpose is something that needs to be nurtured
Right.
the entire time. Your entire life is we're nurturing the purpose.
Purpose and meaning. And of course, the new generation, Gen Z, that's in the workforce today,
Hmm.
they're highlighting that more, right? Because they won't talk like older generations. We got into that, and I kind of compare it to what you were talking about, Hannah. Like after you had the surgery that saved your life and let you move into a more normal life, right? Not chained to a bed, not on monitors 24/7 just to stay alive. And you said there was about 10 years you're like, you didn't want to talk about it. You didn't want to. I see it as you went into disassociation. Like it was so hard. The only way you could handle was to just separate and head down, run the systems. The systems work. And that's what a lot of people do when you were just saying they've got to keep the job because they got to keep the lights on, but it's miserable. There's no meaning. There's no purpose. I don't seem like I belong. So I just have to buckle up and push through, right? Disassociate. The tough part when we disassociate from the painful emotions, right? We can't turn some of them off.
Mm, no, you can't.
We turn the challenging emotion. I don't even like to call them bad emotions. The challenging emotions, we can't feel the joyful emotions at the same level.
It's true. It's very true. And that's where like my whole mini shift, I had to and that's where the self-aware leader comes in, right? Because being able to catch those, recognizing that part that, oh, wait, that's not, that doesn't align with me. It's aligning with something else, but it's not me. And I think that this is the other part because I know even as I was feeling or going through different things, I was frustrated and sometimes it came mad. So it's like frustrated I was feeling it, then guilty that I was feeling that way, especially knowing what had happened, right? And that's where empowerment becomes so key, right? And you gotta empower yourself. That's why your community is huge. I mean, you've gotta be in that community because people will see different things. We need each other. And honestly, when you start we've all gone through different hard things. You may have gone through a heart attack, but you went through a loss, went through even loss of relationship, loss of a job can be traumatic. All of the different parts, even kids growing up and going into college. So
Right. Empty nest. Yeah.
yeah, it's so important because it's so easy to get wrapped up your identity in the role you fulfill, whatever role that is, and not really have your identity really grounded in your purpose of who you are, because your purpose may express itself in different ways. But is understanding that we as leaders, we're getting in touch with our purpose and helping other people, serving. We make environments where they can serve fully in their purpose. And companies that do that have been proven to be profitable. very profitable,
Very profitable.
bringing the whole self. So this whole idea that emotion doesn't have a place in business, or that you have to disassociate yourself, or it's not good practice, or this is a soft skill. It's not a soft skill. It's an essential skill. You look at sales. Sales is an exchange of emotion. That's all it is. When you see those billboards, they're showing you how you will feel if you have that. Not even the product. You may not even remember the product. You see like, oh, they look happy, and it's that brand next to it. I don't even know what they're selling exactly. You a coat sales? Are you selling purses? Are you selling a fragrance? Is really the association we do with emotions. So to ask our people to consistently not bring emotion or not feel and be task, 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 yeah, you're creating this whole dysfunctional system that is not good for companies. It's not good for sustainability. It's definitely not good for our mental health.
Right. And we see the effects of that in the world today, totally.
Yeah.
Which brings me to this point. You talk about in your work that emotions are data.
Yes.
They're not distractions.
Nope.
What changes when someone really, like, when that really sinks in for someone?
Well, for me, it changed a lot. And actually, I learned that from my Six Sigma training. I learned it from turning qualitative data into quantitative data. In qualitative data, again, it's like when somebody, like even a customer service experience, it's like, how was your experience today? Oh, it was great. Well, my great may be different than your great, right? So I had to, in a way, okay, well, how do I interpret great to us? What great, even to that employee that collected their grade to the grade. Well, we had to have standards. So we had to have a standard, and the standard was only a standard, only valuable as it impacted the mission or the vision of that organization. So when looking at data, right? I mean, what changes is understanding that not all data is data that you need, but you do need the data that is going to be crucial for mission, is mission critical. So understand
Mhm.
that we're consistently receiving all of this information. And when you know your purpose, because it's the same as the vision of the organization, when you know your purpose, it stops being overwhelming, all of these signals that we're getting, and you start being very intentional and precise in what you're listening for, so you can use that as increasing the fulfillment in your life and being effective. Again, for one of the ways I serve leaders is leaders that don't just want to do the thing, but they want to do the right thing and do it right. So in a world where busy is rewarded, it's not about being busy. You don't have to be there 100% all the time, but you do have to be there 100% at the right time. So you need to know what that right time is for you. Data will let you know that, understanding what the feedback means to you in relation to your purpose, in relation to your fulfillment. It is crucial to really live an effective, fulfilled, and purposeful life.
Right. And through that, build a successful organization that grows and serves at a higher level.
Yeah, and be happy doing it. I mean, think about it. Like when you're productive, when you're productive, when you're like all like full of conflict, where you can't even breathe, take a breather because you're so busy. Or you're productive when you're at rest, you're relaxed, and you're like enjoying, and you're excited about what you do next. And that's what we're talking about.
So, where do you see, because you mentioned emotional intelligence, and I totally agree, emotional intelligence is not a good to have soft skill, it's mission critical.
Yes.
And the data shows that
Yes.
organizations that have leaders that operate from emotional intelligence, they're more stable, there's more employee engagement, there's less turnover, all of that, right? They're more happy customers, better revenues, all of that. But where do we confuse emotional intelligence with emotional performance, or sometimes what we call that spiritual bypass?
Well, I haven't with the spiritual bypass, but the emotional performance, you mean like pleasing people? Is that
No, like performing emotions. Like we're not really engaging with the emotions. We're just putting on the good emotional face. So yeah, I understand. Yeah, that really, but it's just a performance because we're not actually what I believe is first, in order to have emotional intelligence, it starts right here, right? You
Right.
got to be in touch with your own and open to your own emotions and realize what the signals are trying to tell you
Yes.
before you can transfer it out to others.
Hmm. Yeah.
But some leaders are doing the emotional performance.
Hmm. Oh, I I can tell you, I performed a lot with my heart disease because I did not want my mom to be hurt. I didn't want her to stop doing what she was doing. So there were many times where I would pretend I was fine, although I wasn't fine. And there was a point where I pretended so much, especially because something good had happened, right? Like with my birthday, we were celebrating my birthday, and I put on, like, I just wanted to keep on celebrating. I was 10 years old. It was a milestone. Didn't think I was gonna have. Started feeling not well, and that I didn't say anything. I kept on putting on the smiley face. I kept on saying everything's well. Well, that's when I had my first heart attack, and I will say that's what happens with leaders. It's draining. Not only is it draining, because those times when I would put on that mask, it would take everything away from me. But not only that, it took away the very life of me. So
Right.
that's,
And it could have permanently taken that away from you.
oh, 100%. If I didn't have somebody there that like care that looked, right? Think of it in an organization. And we do that sometimes for the sake of, because sometimes we have very admirable leaders that we love, or people, like, the one that rock the boat. So how's everything? Oh, doing awesome, doing great. Can we do this? That, like, yeah, absolutely. And then it doesn't get fulfilled, or the way it gets fulfilled is by not ethical ways.
Mm-hmm.
And ethical, that's, or where things are getting bypassed in the sense, so like, oh, we don't need to do that. I know we normally do that, but we're not going to do it. We're not going to skip the standard. And you could potentially really deal with safety problems, a lot of different things. So emotional bypass, or even just like engaging in emotions like that, they don't serve you. They don't serve the person. I mean, imagine my mom. Was it better to deal with somebody who wasn't feeling well and giving her some space, or having to deal now with a kid having a heart attack trying to find a hospital? I mean, even the person I was trying to protect, in essence, I was putting more on her. And the same goes when you're doing this with, right? When you're not expressing, you're actually putting pressure in the system that you're very much trying to protect.
Right. I totally saw that as you were telling that story. It's like you were trying to protect your mom
Hmm.
from having to face the pain of the emotion in the moment. So you stored it away.
Hmm.
It collected interest,
Yes.
and when the bill came due, it was expensive.
Very much. Very much. It became an urgent heart attack, something that, I mean, maybe they could have been prevented, maybe not. Maybe that's the way it was going to happen anyway, but we just wouldn't know, would we?
Why would we want to put ourselves in that situation unnecessarily? I heard it recently in a discussion. Our body, our systems, the first is a whisper or a feather, like,
Hmm.
hey,
Hmm.
you need to change something.
Hmm.
And if we ignore it, it becomes a slap on the face. Like, hey, wake up, pay attention.
Yeah.
And if we continue to ignore it, it can become a 2x4 on the side of the head. And if we continue to ignore it, it quickly becomes a bus or a train
Yes.
that hits us out of the, seemingly from nowhere. But if we were paying attention, we would have saw the train coming.
Oh yeah, and this is a big deal, especially I would say like right now where we're at, because we're seeing a lot of change happening around us, a lot of change that we're having to take in. Right, there is a race. I mean, like it or not, we're in the middle of a race. We hear that from even technology founders and people, that there's a race to try to get there first. They don't even really know what exactly we're going to get to first.
Yeah, we don't know what there is.
Right. We don't know what there is, but we just know that we have to be in a very high rate also of adoption. But some things are not, there's not, all the check marks are not being there, because right now is getting there first. That's the goal. And this is where we also have to be careful, right? Because there's certain signals, there's certain things, even at the adoption rate, even the burnout that comes from adopting so quickly different types of changes and questions and raising your hand. And it takes courage, because I know I didn't want to, like say, put her in my mom's parade or the family, right? It takes courage. And sometimes it does. It's like, this is easier, it's familiar, it's comfortable. I want everybody to be fine, and realizing that no, that you're not raising your hand, you're not explaining something, raising those concerns or following that emotion, it can lead to what you just said, like it's a train wreck. My case, a heart attack, but it can be complete disruption and something that maybe you cannot come back from. So it is important. We have these emotional signals. We were giving this is not, doesn't get in the way of our performance. It helps us perform better. It helps us to
Exactly.
be, it's what differentiates us from robots and artificial intelligence. It is a superpower, not something to hide away.
Yes. All right. So, how does Heartnomics change how we make decisions under pressure?
Well, first of all, it's alignment. So I said it's Harnomics is transformation through love and excellence. So you got to have both. For that, you need leadership. You got to have the human operating system as well as you have to have the your operational system for the organization. So it's both. A leader that can help manage, balance, be able to serve, properly position both those, the great team and the great processes and systems is the ones that we're going to see not only be profitable but be able to accomplish their mission, their vision, and that part. So that's where Hardnomics helps. Hardnomics helps with the leadership system to be able to have to optimize your human operating system, which is your emotional, your culture, the character, the values based leadership, and be able to identify the gaps in your processes in the system, but making sure your processes and systems are working for the people. Does this mean perhaps integrating different technologies? Yes, it may mean that. Does it mean getting rid of a lot of things that we have? Yes, we have to unpack a lot of things. Absolutely. So it is both. Basically, with Hardnomics, I'm doing what it was done for me, utilizing technology to be able to strip away the different, in my case, were a lot of electrical nodes, but I had to have clarity. And once we had the clarity, the energy was able to flow. For me, the energy is our people. It is the heart, and the people are the heart of the company. So we do that through doing purpose assessments. We do communication assessments. We look at the entire strategy. I do executive coaching, so I'm able to help both provide a safe space for the C-suite and your board of directors to be able to look at the governance overall, and even look at the AI governance of your current organizations.
What is one emotional skill you believe every modern leader must develop, like it or not?
Pause. And actually, maybe is the pause, maybe the action, but the grace to pause, the understanding that I do have to take that breath, even how hard it look at, but it does take me time to stop, and I have to be gracious enough, give myself the gift of being able to breathe, being able to pause. So I will say that is one of the main things, is not feel guilty about pausing, not feel guilty, because I think that's why people don't do it, but really embracing the gift that comes with taking that pause, that grace of whatever may happen because of taking that pause, but knowing that it is so much better when you're able to do that in order to get your organization and yourself back in rhythm. For me, it was the tachycardia did not impact me as much as the arrhythmia. Tachycardia would be really fast, arrhythmia when it was irregular. And I see that so much in organizations. Everybody kind of go beating to their own rhythm. The
Right.
process,
The organizational arrhythmia is the problem, not the tachycardia
right.
in the organization.
Even when my heart was slow, if it was arrhythmic, I would collapse. So I would say that pause, being gracious in that, is that reset so that everybody can get in the same rhythm again. And that allows organization. So it is hard. I'm not going to deny it. It's hard. It sounds very simple, but it's hard to keep your composure and your grace when you have all these things, and things coming in your phone and things and all kinds of stuff.
Right. You've got the those above barking, where's the TPR reports, or customers screaming, "When's my order being delivered?" Blah blah. Yeah, it's like now, 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 now. Yesterday.
Exactly. It takes courage.
But I think that's a great metaphor, right? The tachycardia, the rush, the speed of trying to get things done. It's not the main problem, right?
Hmm.
Just like with burnout, it's not about the number of hours, because I've seen stories of founders that are putting in insane hours and they just keep going. They seem to have this unlimited well of energy and they don't burn out. But others barely touch that level of commitment and burn out. I think so. The arrhythmia, it's things aren't firing
Correct.
in the right order.
Hmm. You think about it, when you run, your heart goes fast, but you learn to breathe with it. Like there's a, even in the fast, sometimes desired, if it's not desired, you can learn to regulate through that. You can't do that in the arrhythmia. In the arrhythmia, it's kind of trying to catch your breath when you can. And that's the thing. When as a leader, when we need to set a rhythm to how we do work, what's the, every organization has their own rhythm. Every organization has their beat. Silos create those arrhythmias. When we create in silos, we are creating these differences. So it is that reset and knowing that rhythm of your organization as a leader. There's times we're going to have to go fast. We have to. But there's also times that we have to slow down. And when it's all over the place, there's times where we just pause, reset.
Well, and like we illustrated before, you can choose to pause or something will happen and you'll pause anyway.
Yeah, absolutely. We've seen that.
One way or another, you're pausing. So
Pause
isn't it better to choose the pause?
100%.
Here's a fun one. What embracing our emotions, you know, working through our emotions, what does that make possible that strategy alone just can't?
Strategy alone, well, I would say my immediate response was decision making, because when you are making decision, now you can say strategy, well, the strategy tells you decision making, but every you can make plans, but also if you're not ready to change those plans, and not everything goes according to plan. So I would say before decision making, adaptability. When you are at a good emotional place, you're able to adapt. Things don't become personal. Things don't become, oh my gosh, it's the end of the world, or my entire purpose, or the whole meaning of the world comes to a stop. But when you're able to adapt in highly emotionally grounded people are able to do that. The adaptability also, with that comes the agility, right? Even in the agility to be able to go fast or slow down, or different things. But
Or to pivot.
yes, so the adaptability really comes as a skill, as a response of very well grounded emotion, highly the emotional intelligence is alive in you and in the organization, being able to adapt together.
Love it. It's so true. If someone listening was to feel exposed right now, like the conversation is touching something tender, what would you want them to know?
That it's okay if you're frustrated, is because you know there's something better. So I think taking frustrations and taking the whole responsibility, frustrations is what's draining, taking it from me. Like I'm not releasing those frustrations, but also I'm being curious into what things that are frustrating you right now. And I think, and that's part of being the emotional aspect, is that not be afraid to question, to ask deeper into why those things are frustrating, as scary as it may be, because that is the very key that we need to, that tells you your, not only your purpose but even your next step. So I would say be encouraged. If you might be like feeling right now somewhat like, I don't know how I feel, like, I am feeling this, actually that's a good thing. It is not bad, it's embracing it, because because you feel that frustration, that definitely means that you know what it's like, there's another side to it, and it's definitely attainable to you. Otherwise, you would not have been able to believe that or even have that concept of thought.
Right. I always see emotion or that feeling, it's a signal,
Yes,
which means you need to get things, you need to look under the hood,
yes,
to use an automotive metaphor. Look under the hood, what's going on? Something is not working right. So take a look and fix it.
yes.
All right. Final question before we wrap up. When people truly understand the economics of the heart,
Hmm.
what is it that they stop sacrificing?
Community. They stop sacrificing community and network because economy doesn't exist by itself. So it's an economy of the heart because it's a connection of different hearts coming together. They stop sacrificing the time, what we may say social time. They stop sacrificing times where you need to be with other humans. It's enjoying company from other people. And I think that's usually what ends up being sacrificed a lot is the
Mhm.
need that we have to be social. We need that on our outside of work, just as we need it in the workplace. It's a network. Economy doesn't work if there's not a producer, a consumer. An economy doesn't work if there's no supply, there's no demand. I mean, there has to be there's an entire network for an economy to be able to work. And the economy of the heartnomics, is because you are connecting with people's hearts. There is a network. You have your network, you have the inner circle, you have the people that you do work with, you have the people that you do work for. And then definitely you are people living out your purpose, which is your gift to the world.
All right. Thank you, Hannah. This has been a beautiful conversation. I really appreciate it. I know that there was a lot to take in from everything we shared. What's the easiest way for people to find you?
Oh, well, you can go to my website, heartnomics.com. That's the easiest one, HEARTnomics.com. You can find me on LinkedIn as well. I do have a complimentary alignment assessment for those of you that want to do for individual look at how you're doing with your heart leadership. So you can find that on my website as well.
Yes, and I will go ahead and link all that in the show notes so you have easy access. Thank you all for listening. Thank you, Hannah, for being here and sharing your wisdom and your experience. It was beautiful, and I'm very grateful for it.
Appreciate it. Thanks for having me.
All right. Bye bye, everyone. We'll see you next time. Thanks for tuning in to Daily Power Boost. Ignite your potential. Remember, transformation starts with action. So take today's insight, make it your own, and awaken your inner potential. Because remember, greatness begins within. Catch you tomorrow for your next Power Boost.